with yourself. Start with work. I always say work in so your outside life can change. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Dope Life Podcast, the dopest podcast ever. And I'm, of course, your host, Coach AJ, Dope Life Coach, the dopest life coach ever. And if you haven't already, go ahead and click on that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. And if you could be so lovely and dope and leave us a rating and a review, we would greatly appreciate it because, as you know, I'm a one-woman show. I produce and edit and do all the research all on my own. So the more that we get the wording out there, the more people can live a dope life, and moreover, live a life of self-love, self-confidence, and of course, improve their personal and professional life. So let's go ahead and get into what we always do. And if you're new here, we usually take 3 deep cleansing breaths to kind of just, iron out the energy that's in us. And if we have any bad vibes, we just get rid of it, even if we're unaware, right? So if you are driving, as always, please, me, I beg you, keep your eyes on the road, but you could also practice the deep breathing with us, okay? But if you are not and you're comfortable in your home, you have a few seconds, I invite you to close your eyes and let's just take 3 deep cleansing breaths. So once you have your eyes closed, you're going to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, all right? So in through your nose, out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Went in through your nose, out through your mouth. There you go. And I hope that you feel just a little bit, at ease, the way I feel a little bit more at ease. So today's episode, we're talking about non-negotiables. And I know people kind of refer to non-negotiables a lot, across social media about relationships, but we can use non-negotiables for ourselves as well as we live our day-to-day life. So, what are non-negotiables? To be honest with you, they're basically, fundamental of boundaries, right? Whether it's non-negotiable within your routine, your habit, or your goals. Now, personally, I use non-negotiables. If I set a goal, like what are my non-negotiables for me to be able to successfully meet that goal? So I will set out certain things that I need, and we're going to go further into it in the episode of, certain steps you can actually take that will help you throughout setting those non-negotiables. Where can you set them? So as I said, you can set them primarily in relationships. We all know that. But you could also set them with family and friendships as well. You could set them with your workplace. Set them with your workplace. You could also set them for financial. What are financial non-negotiables that you are not going to cross? Like, for example, like you're only going to eat out once a week. You're going to make your coffees at home. You're going to try to save, $25 a week, out of your check or something. Or if you get bi-weekly, $50 every 2 weeks. What are those not financial non-negotiables? Activities and habits. Like, what habits are you willing to be okay with and what activities you're not? So maybe your activity that you're saying is a non-negotiable is you're going to exercise X amount of times per week for X amount of minutes, and that's a non-negotiable. You're going to do it no matter what. Maybe it is a habit that you have where, maybe you're not going to be drinking out, having a drink at home by yourself. You're only going to have it when you're around family and friends or coworkers, this type of social, environment. Routines. Now, when it comes towards non-negotiables and routines, this is where I use it the most. So I have a morning routine. Many of you may know. If not, I have a morning routine. I list it out and I always make sure that these are my non-negotiables. I have to get these done because it's a boundary I'm also just setting with myself that in order for me to meet the goal, this is the criteria that I need to meet that goal, to be the person, to step up and be the person that would need these type of criteria, these type of goals, these settings, these non-negotiables to acquire what I want to get at the end, which is, meet the goal and the intention and so on and so forth. So those are just like a bit of ways that you could adapt the non-negotiables into your actual life. Like I said, relationship, friendships, family, work, financial activities and or habits and routines. You also got to meet yourself where you're at, like where you are with your own life. So setting these should be unique to your life and your lifestyle. however it is. So I can tell you, I just told you a bit of my non-negotiables. They might not work for you, but they work for me. So this is where like you actually have to think, what is it gonna like? What do I need in my life and my lifestyle? Is this gonna meet me where I'm at? Because if you were setting non-negotiables that are not gonna meet you where you're at, you may not be successful. And you want to be successful when you set these non-negotiables. So definitely meet yourself where you're at when it comes towards you setting these non-negotiables, because you want to succeed at the end. Um, Adapt these like, 1 to 2 times a day, like whatever it is. Like I started off small, especially when you're building and trying to figure out what your non-negotiables are. Figure out ways like what works best. Is this going to work best for me? Is this going to work best? So I say try 1 or 2 at a time. Don't just say here's 5. Because you're going to bombard yourself. It's an adjustment. You're building good habits. It takes time. So you don't need to always have like, let me just do 5. Start off with 1 or 2. Start off 1 or 2 a day. See how you feel. Do that for about 7 days. See if you need to adjust as you go along the way. And start off with a goal in mind. Like I said, I always put the goal at the top of my list, and I figure out what are the non-negotiables that I need to have to acquire that goal, to meet that goal. And that's a good way to really break down what it is, why you're doing it. Because we're not just setting non-negotiables for, just cause. We're setting it because we have a reason in mind. There is an absolute reason in mind. And you want to think about what are your non-negotiables that will get you closer to your desired or dream life. That's a way that you could think about it. Because if you don't have a goal in mind, you could say, okay, I desire this, I dream of this. What are the non-negotiables that I need to set in order for me to get there? What are the steps that I would need to take in order for me to get there? Setting that boundary with yourself. So here's an example of kind of like a breakdown of a non-negotiable. So your non-negotiable could be, I want to get more adequate sleep, right? So what are the couple of things that you would need to do that? Now, for one, you could say, I want to get, approximately maybe like 7 to 8 hours of sleep. That would be adequate for me. Now, I know some people can function off of 5 or 6 by all means, but again, it's meeting you where you're at and your lifestyle. So what is required to do this? Maybe you got to go to bed earlier, right? Instead of you going to bed at, let's say 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and you have to get up at 5, you got to calculate how many hours do I need to actually get adequate sleep if I'm getting up at 5 a.m. You know what I'm saying? So you may go to kind of start winding down around 8 o'clock. Let's say like that, like 8 o'clock, 8:30, you start winding down. Which requires something like, less screen time, reading a book, having a PM or a nighttime routine for yourself, like a nighttime hygiene routine. Like I'm going to have a bath and then I'm going to do a facial. Like these are the steps that you could start kind of thinking of. I'll show gratitude towards the end of my night. Like what is it that's going to allow you to feel like you have adequate sleep? An audio book or I'm going to color, I'm going to journal. Like do a little stretching, some yoga, I don't know. But what are the steps that are going to help you have that adequate sleep? Because again, what works for me may not work for you. So it's very important for you to really dig down and figure out what it is for you to meet there. That's just an example. Other examples could be like, as I said, exercise 30 minutes a day. That could be one, hypothetically. Go outside and get some fresh air. Whether even if it's cold, to go in there for 5 minutes, just get some sun and some fresh air, especially around, these times of the year. A healthy meal, what I'm saying? Like adapting that healthy meal. As I said, less screen time, practicing self-care. Maybe you want to practice it once a week, every 2 weeks, whether it's journaling, favorite movie or TV show, intentional showers or baths, hygiene for your self-care, or even something as simple as being silent for 10 minutes. Like, just see how I kind of like broke that down? That's just a way. I wanted to just kind of give you an example of how you can add that and adapt that to your own non-negotiables when you create some, right? And like, how often should you do it? Well, daily. Once you really kind of break down your non-negotiables, once you kind of have like an actual steady list, or you've come to agreement that these are my non-negotiables for myself, for whether it's work, whether it's family, a partner, whatever, you practice it daily. Absolutely. You practice as much as you need to. And But I want to really emphasize on the fact that you have to make sure it meets yourself where you're at and it meets at the lifestyle that you have. Because if you're going to just go online and you see someone else's non-negotiables and you're like, I'm going to adapt that. It's like going online and trying to adapt someone's, like workout routine, and you have a bad back or something. They're saying do more back, and you're doing this exercise. You realize, oh, maybe I don't need to do that. Or they say like F stretching, I don't need to do it. And you realize, no, I got to do more of that. So it's very important that when you are setting these, you must, I emphasize this, must meet yourself where you're at, and it has to adapt to life and the lifestyle of where you are at as well. So lastly, what will your non-negotiables be? I want you to take that away from today's episode. What are your non-negotiables? Start off with the goal, as I said, start off with meeting yourself where you're at, it has to adapt your life. But what can you think of your non-negotiables could be for this year? What are you trying to set? And it's good to have them. And you could go down the list of the list I gave you, family, friends, and financial. I would say start with yourself, start with work. I always say work in, so your outside life can change. So like if you work within yourself, financial, your self-care, those type of things, your work-life balance, all of that stuff, that benefits you a ton as well. So I want you to think about it. Like, what would you want to be your non-negotiables? So for a quick little recap, we went over non-negotiables today for your growth, right? We talked about, setting them, like what are non-negotiables, and it's, something that you're trying to, something you are committed to, and, no matter what, you're committed to it, whether it's a routine, a habit, or your goals. I gave you kind of a list of some of the examples of where you could put them in: relationship, friendships, family, work, financial activities, or habits and routines. I really talked, and I'm sorry if I put it out there too much, but I think it's very important that we meet ourselves where we're at. So many of us will set these goals and we're not meeting ourselves where we're at because we're trying to meet at other people's lifestyles and lives versus our own. So huge emphasis on that. And, just gave you an example of you want adequate sleep and how you could break that down. Like you may have to go to bed early, less screen time, or, how would you do that? Allocate how many hours you do need to have adequate sleep, because my hours and your hours wouldn't match. And so as my hours and someone else's hours wouldn't match in terms of adequate sleep. Some people can function off of 5, and some people function off of 8+, like 8 to 10, who knows, depending on what we do for our day to day. And yeah, practice it daily as well. I think that non-negotiables are very important. So, it's a form of a boundary as well, right? What is your hard stop? Pretty much what is your hard stop? So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Go ahead, share it. If you have any feedback, by all means, you could email me at, info@dopelifecoach.com. Always open to hear any good feedback, bad feedback, compliments, non-compliments, whatever, complaints. By all means, hit me up. And if you have any suggestions of episodes you'd like to personally hear about and for me to do research on, by all means, that's a great way to contact me. Or if not, share this episode in your Instagram story, and you could tag me at DopeLifePod or at DopeLifeCoach_. And, all of that is great because it constantly pushes the episode out to people just like yourself that are trying to hit that personal, professional growth mark as well. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in for another Dope Life podcast episodes. I'm, of course, Coach AJ, Dope Life Coach, the dopest life coach out there. As always, walk with peace and walk with love.